Dihybrid crosses. So dihybrid crosses means that you're looking at two completely different characters. So you're looking at in the outline you have like the color of the seed, which is one character, and then the texture of the seed, which is another character. And the traits are yellow and green or round and wrinkled. So let's fill in the boxes here. So if you have a yellow round seed and the parent is homozygous dominant for each of these, each one of these gets a set of 2 letters, right? So what would homozygous dominant for yellow look like? It would look like big Y, right? And then what would homozygous dominant for round look like? That would look like big R, okay? The other parent that we're crossing this with is a green wrinkled seed, so they're homozygous recessive. So what would homozygous recessive for green look like, right? It would be little y. And what would homozygous recessive for wrinkled look like? It would look like little r. Okay? So those are your parents' genotypes in a dihybrid cross. Remember, each one of your characters needs 2 alleles. Now, when you're making gametes, this is a tricky part. So when you are making a gamete, remember that these 2 Ys represent a diploid cell. So this is the homologous chromosomes are together. You have one big Y on one chromosome, a big Y on the other chromosome. You have to separate those when you make gametes. Same goes for the Rs. So you separate the Ys and you separate the Rs. Okay, so what are the gametes that this parent can make? Well, the Ys are going to separate, and since we only have a big Y, the only possible gametes that this parent can make has to have a big Y. And then since we only have big Rs, if you separate them, the gametes have to get a big R. They're going to get one big R. So this is what your gamete's going to look like. These are the possible gametes produced by this parent. This is a diploid cell. This is a haploid cell. Okay, it's only one homologous chromosome and one from each character. Let's see how we're going to do the homozygous recessive parent, right? Same thing. We're going to separate the Ys. The gamete, since we only have little Ys, the gamete has to receive a little Y. Since we only have little Rs, we're going to separate those, and the gamete's going to get one of our little Rs. So these are your gametes. Okay? So we're going to look at our gametes that we just made previously, and we're going to create a little baby square because we only have one possible gamete from each parent. So actually we only need one square. One parent goes here, the big Y, big R, right? That's the only possible gamete that parent can make. The little y, little r is the only possible gamete that other parent can make. And we just simply fill in the box again. But this time, we have 4 letters, right? So the big Y and little y, and the big R and little r. All right, so this is the only thing possible, only offspring possible if you have these 2 gametes. So what are the possible genotypes for the offspring? Well, heterozygous for both of our characters, right? Big Y, big R, little r. That's our only possible genotype. What are the possible phenotypes? So if you look at both of these, what did big Y stand for? Big Y stood for yellow, right? So we know that our offspring have to be yellow. And what did big R stand for? Well, our offspring have to be round. So 100% of the offspring here are yellow round seeds. I'm going to cross F1 All right, so what was the genotype we just made? We made big Y, little y, big R, little r, right? Oops, yes, those are the, and let's set up a cross. So what we're going to do is a big Y, big R, little r, cross with the same, right? Because all of our F1 generation is the same genotype. So that's our F1 cross. What are possible gametes? Now, this is going to be challenging because you have to think about any combination of one letter is possible, right? So of the Y's, what you have to choose one Y to go to a gamete. So let's go ahead and pick a big one. Big Y, all right? That goes into one gamete. We're done with the Y's. Let's go with the R's. What R do you want to put in this gamete? You only have to choose one. Remember, gametes are haploid, so let's pick the big R. All right, so that's one possible gamete. If you shuffle these around to make a haploid gamete, that's one possibility. What's another possibility? How about we pick a big Y and we stick it with the little r? That's also possible. Okay. How about we take the little y and we stick it with the big R? That's possible. And then how about the little y and the little r? Okay. So now that's it. So now any possible combination of Y's and R's are here. Okay, so these are the possible gametes that this flower parent can make. Same goes for this, right? We have the same genotype, so they have the same gametes. So what you're going to do is when you create a Punnett square that you have 4 possible gametes for, the square gets bigger because remember every single one of these was one gamete. So I'm going to not have you guys fill in the square, but we can take a look at a square that's already been filled in. So one square that's already been filled in. So our gametes are all here on the side. If you fill in the boxes, you have 16 boxes, and the only thing you need to know or memorize for this is that a dihybrid cross, which is our hybrid parents for 2 of our characters, right? They are going to have a phenotypic ratio of 9 to 3 to 3 to 1. So that means that if you always have 2 parents that are heterozygous for both of those traits, the 9 stands for your offspring, 9 of them out of the 16 possible. Remember, this is a ratio, right? So 9 will exhibit both dominant traits. Yellow round. 3 and 3, these are going to be switching off for the 1, 3 is going to have a dominant and a recessive trait, and then, you know, phenotypically showing the dominant and also the recessive, and then the other one will switch. It'll show the other dominant and the other recessive. And then for this, the 1, this is going to be homozygous recessive. So out of 16 boxes, 1 box will be this one here, right? Little r, homozygous recessive for the color, and wrinkled, and homozygous recessive for the color. So that's what that means. So all you need to know is the phenotypic ratio, 9 to 3 to 3 to 1. 9 means that 9 out of 16 boxes will have both dominant traits phenotypically. 3 and 3, 1 dominant, 1 recessive, 1 dominant, 1 recessive, and then this is both recessive traits. All right, so that's your task to remember 9 to 3 to 3 to 1 for a dihybrid cross. All right, so if you're following on the outline, we did not fill in the box that I have for you on the outline, the 16 square box, but this is it. So if you felt like doing it, you can do it. You don't have to. But that concludes the Mendelian genetics component. The next lecture will deal with these these different ways that you inherit genes, but in a non-dominant recessive way.